She kneeled down, trembling in the dining room at dinner table, humiliated by the man she once called home. He forced her to say sorry to the very woman who ruined her life. But when it was her turn to speak, what she revealed shook everyone. Ijeoma was a quiet and gentle young woman who worked hard as a legal intern. She didn't have much, but she gave her whole heart to Uzo, the man she loved. Uzo came from a rich and respected family, and Ijeoma felt lucky to be with him. Even though they lived in two different worlds, she never let that stop her. She cooked for him, helped him with his work, prayed for him, and even used her small savings to support his big dreams of becoming a top lawyer. But while she was giving her all, Uzo's younger sister, Adais, treated her like trash. Adais was proud, loud, and spoiled. She looked down on Ijeoma just because she wasn't rich or flashy. She would laugh at her clothes, call her names, and make rude jokes in front of others. Ijeoma never fought back. She just smiled and stayed silent, believing that love and patience would one day change everything. Even when Adais mocked her for being too local or too quiet, Ijeoma still respected her because she was Uzo's sister. Uzo saw all of it, but he never truly stood up for Ijeoma. He would say things like, "Adiezi didn't mean it," or "You're just too sensitive." Ijeoma would hold back her tears and try to stay strong. She kept telling herself that her loyalty and love would be enough to win everyone over. But deep inside, she was slowly breaking. No one noticed how much she was hurting. She was surrounded by people who used her kindness as a weakness. Yet still she stayed, because she loved Uzo, and she believed in the future they were building. She had no idea that the storm was just beginning. One evening, Ijeoma came home earlier than usual, tired from work and hoping to rest. But as she opened the door, what she saw froze her in place. Right there in her own living room, Adaizi, her fiancé's sister, was kissing Kunle, Ijeoma's own cousin. Her heart dropped. It felt like a bad dream. She stood there, unable to speak. Kunle had always been close to her like a brother, and Adis had once promised with her own mouth that she would stay far away from him. Now here they were, holding each other like lovers, laughing like they owned the world. They didn't even look sorry. In fact, Adaizi looked at Ijeoma and just smirked. No shame, no fear. Ijeoma's voice trembled as she asked what was going on. But Adaizi boldly said, "You're not the only smart one in this house." Kunle couldn't even meet Ijeoma's eyes. That moment broke something inside her, but the pain was only beginning. Later that week, Ijeoma started noticing strange behavior from Uzo. He was distant, cold, and quick to anger. He barely listened when she spoke, and often accused her of things she didn't do. Confused and heartbroken, she tried to find out what changed. That's when a mutual friend told her the truth. Adeze and Kunle had been telling Uzo lies behind her back. They said Ijeoma was jealous, controlling, and trying to stop Adeze from finding happiness. They even claimed she was secretly messaging other men. None of it was true, but Uzo believed them. Ijeoma felt like she was drowning. The two people she trusted, her cousin and her fiancé's sister, were turning the man she loved against her. They were painting her as the villain, while hiding their own betrayal. And Uzo never even asked her side of the story. She realized then, the people she had always protected were slowly destroying her, and Uzo was helping them do it, without knowing the truth. Ijeoma couldn't keep quiet anymore. After seeing Adaiz with Kunle and hearing the lies they were spreading, she decided to talk to Adaiz face to face. She waited until they were alone in the house. Her voice was calm but firm as she asked, "Why are you doing this to me? Why would you kiss my cousin and lie to Uzo about me?" But instead of answering with truth or even shame, Adaize laughed loudly and called Ijeoma pathetic. "Do you think Uzo really loves you?" she said with a cold smile. "He's just with you because you're quiet and easy to control." Ijeoma felt her chest tighten, but she tried to stay calm. She begged Adaize to stop the lies and leave Kunle alone. Suddenly, without warning, Adaize slapped her hard across the face. "Don't ever question me again," she hissed. Ijeoma held her cheek, shocked, eyes full of tears, but she refused to cry. She left the room quietly, holding all the pain in her heart. Later that night, Ijeoma gathered the courage to tell Uzo everything. She told him about the slap, the lies, and the kiss between Adaize and Kunle. But instead of listening with care or even surprise, Uzo frowned and raised his voice. "Are you serious?" he said. So now you're spying on my sister. You're too emotional, Ijoma. You always overthink everything. His words cut deeper than Adaizi's slap. She couldn't believe it. The man she loved didn't believe her. He didn't even ask questions. He just defended his sister. Things got worse the next day. Uzo called a family meeting. Ijoma thought maybe he had changed his mind. But no. Right in front of everyone, he turned to her and said, "Apologize to my sister. You caused unnecessary drama." Ijoma froze. The whole room was silent. Adaizi sat with a proud smile while Ijoma stood there, heartbreaking, feeling so small. No one defended her, not even her cousin Kunle. Ijoma looked around, hoping someone would speak up, but they all stared. In that moment, she realized she was truly alone. The people she loved didn't care about the truth. They only cared about power, image, and control. And Uzo, the man she gave her heart to, chose his sister's lies over her honesty. That night, Ijoma didn't sleep. She just stared at the ceiling, wondering how love could hurt so much. The dining room was full of laughter and soft music as Uzo's family gathered for a special dinner. Everyone looked happy, smiling and eating like nothing was wrong. But inside, Ijoma was shaking. She knew something was coming. Uzo had told her earlier, "Tonight, you will apologize to Adaizi in front of everyone." She had begged him in private, tried to explain again, but he didn't care. He said she had embarrassed his sister and needed to make it right. When it was time, Uzo stood up and cleared his throat. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to him. He looked at Ijoma and said, "You know what to do." Her hands trembled. Her heart beat fast. But she got up slowly. She walked to Adaizi's side and knelt down. Her voice was low and soft as she said, "I'm sorry for the trouble I caused." For a moment, there was silence. Then Adaizi, with a wicked smile on her face, picked up her wine glass and poured the red wine right over Ijoma's head. The room gasped, but no one said a word, not even Uzo. He just watched, pretending not to be shocked. Ijoma's clothes were soaked, her face dripping, but she didn't scream. She didn't fight. She stood up slowly, looked at them all, the people she once called family, and quietly walked out of the house. That night, Ijoma didn't cry. She washed her hair, changed her clothes, and sat down with a notebook. Her pain had turned into something stronger. She thought of all the things she had seen and heard, all the lies Adaizi had told, all the times Uzo looked away. She began to write. She remembered conversations, messages, voices, every little detail. She started collecting everything, texts, photos, recordings. She even remembered where Adaizi had saved some fake documents. No more tears, no more silence. Ijoma knew she had been treated like she was nothing. But she also knew the truth was a weapon, and she was going to use it, not for revenge, but for justice. She wouldn't scream in front of them. She would speak where it mattered most, in court. That night, she became someone new, someone strong, someone ready. Months passed quietly, but Ijoma was busy behind the scenes. She had used every day and night to build herself back up, not just emotionally, but professionally. She studied hard, finished her law degree, passed her exams, and became a lawyer. She didn't make noise about it. She just kept moving in silence, staying focused on her goal. She didn't want revenge. She wanted truth. And one day, her moment finally came. Adaizi had gotten herself into trouble again. This time, she had scammed another woman by pretending to be someone else. She used fake names, fake pictures, and even stole Ijoma's details to look like a clean, innocent person. The woman she hurt had been emotionally broken and decided to sue her. When the case reached court, Adaizi cried to Uzo to represent her. Uzo agreed without thinking twice. He still believed his sister could do no wrong. The courtroom was packed. Lawyers, journalists, and even strangers had come to watch the case. Uzo walked in confidently, dressed in a fine black suit, holding his files with pride. He smiled and greeted a few people, thinking the case would be easy. But when he looked across the courtroom to see who the opposing lawyer was, his heart dropped. There, sitting with calm confidence, was Ijoma, no longer the quiet girl who once knelt before him, but now the lead counsel for the woman suing Adaizi. She wore her lawyer's robe with grace and power. She didn't even look at Uzo. She was focused, flipping through her documents, ready to speak. Uzo stood frozen for a moment. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. His ex-fiancée, the woman he embarrassed and abandoned, was now his opponent in court. and she looked stronger than ever. Adais, sitting beside him, also saw Ijeoma and went pale. Her fake smile faded. She knew things were about to change. Ijeoma finally looked up and met Uzo's eyes. But she didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just gave him a steady look, the kind that says, "You thought I was weak, but now you'll see who I really am." The judge entered the courtroom. Everyone stood up, and as the case began, Ijeoma's voice rang out clear and confident. She was no longer the victim. She was now the one holding the truth, and she was ready to speak it to the world. As the courtroom became silent, Ijeoma stood up calmly. She looked at the judge, then at the people sitting around. Her voice was soft but firm. She told the judge she had something important to present, evidence that would show the real truth about Adeze. Everyone sat up straight. Even Uzo looked nervous now. He didn't expect Ijeoma to come this prepared. Ijeoma pulled out a flash drive and handed it to the court clerk. The clerk plugged it into the screen. Soon, everyone in the courtroom could hear Adeze's voice loud and clear. It was a recording, and in it, Adeze was laughing while talking on the phone, blackmailing a man. She told him that if he didn't send her money, she would post his private messages online. The man begged her not to do it, but Adeze only laughed more. She even said, "They always fall for it, especially when I use Ijeoma's name." Gasps filled the courtroom. People turned to look at Adeze. She looked down, pretending to be confused, but her hands were shaking. Ijeoma didn't stop there. She played another recording. This time, it was Adeze threatening Kunle, Ijeoma's cousin. She warned him not to tell anyone about their relationship, or she would ruin him. Her voice was cold and proud. Everyone could hear the truth. Adeze was not innocent. Then Ijeoma stood and began presenting photos. Each picture showed Adeze with different men, using different fake names. Some pictures even showed her with Ijeoma's ID card, pretending to be her. She had created fake social media accounts, lied to people, collected money, and destroyed lives. Ijeoma also brought in a few victims who came to court to speak. They shared how Adeze had fooled them and used them. One man said he even sent money thinking it was going to Ijeoma, but later found out it was Adeze all along. The courtroom was now full of whispers and shocked faces. The judge looked serious. Even Uzo had no words. He just sat there, staring at the floor. His proud sister was now exposed in front of everyone. Ijeoma had done what no one expected. She uncovered everything. This wasn't just about clearing her name anymore. It was about showing the truth that had been hidden for so long. Ijeoma stood tall, with tears in her eyes, not from pain, but from relief. The lies were over. The truth had spoken, and Adeze's mask was completely shattered. The moment the last photo was shown and the final witness spoke, the courtroom turned into chaos. People were whispering, gasping, and shaking their heads. Adeze's proud face had changed. She looked like someone who just saw her world falling apart. The judge banged his gavel to calm everyone down. Uzo, still sitting as Adeze's lawyer, stood up quickly. His face was red with shame and anger. He tried to say something to defend his sister. "My lord, with all due respect," he started, but the judge raised his hand and said, "Sit down, Mr. Uzo. You've heard enough. We've all heard enough." The courtroom went silent again. Then Ijeoma, calm and collected, stood up. She took a paper from her bag and said, "I have one final thing to read." Her voice was strong, but full of pain. "This is a letter Adeze wrote to one of her friends. It was sent to me anonymously by someone who couldn't keep quiet anymore." Everyone watched as Ijeoma opened the letter. She began to read. The words in the letter were shocking. It was Adeze bragging about how she made Uzo turn against Ijeoma. She called Ijeoma the poor church girl who thinks love is enough. She laughed about making Uzo believe lies. She said she enjoyed watching Ijeoma suffer while pretending to be innocent in front of the family. She even wrote that she used Ijeoma's name to scam people because no one suspects a quiet girl. Gasps filled the room again. Uzo's face turned pale. His hands dropped to his sides. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked at his sister, like he was seeing a stranger. His parents, who had been seated in pride all through the case, now looked embarrassed. Adeze was exposed, and their family name was now tied to shame and scandal. Ijeoma looked at them, the same people who made her kneel and apologize, the same people who watched her suffer and said nothing. But she didn't yell, she didn't cry. She simply folded the letter and placed it back into her bag. The judge nodded slowly and said, "This court will take a short recess before judgment." As everyone rose, the cameras outside were already flashing. The once powerful family was now disgraced, and Ijoma, the quiet girl they mocked, was the one standing tall, strong, brave, and finally heard. As the courtroom doors opened, reporters rushed forward with cameras and microphones. The air outside was loud and full of questions. But in the middle of all that noise, Ijoma walked out quietly, her head high, her heart calm. She didn't smile, she didn't wave, she just walked straight, with grace and strength. Then from the crowd, Uzo came running toward her. "Ijoma! Please wait!" he called out, his voice shaking. His eyes were red, his face full of regret. He looked like a man who had lost everything, his respect, his peace, and maybe even himself. He stood in front of her, trying to catch his breath. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't know. I was misled. I believed her. I didn't mean to hurt you like that." Ijoma looked at him quietly. She didn't say anything for a few seconds. People watched closely, wondering what she would do. Would she forgive him? Would she cry and hug him? Uzo reached out his hand slowly, hoping she would take it, but Ijoma didn't move. Her eyes didn't show softness. Instead, she took a deep breath and spoke in a calm, clear voice that cut deeper than any shout. "You made me kneel," she said, her voice steady, "for a lie. You made me feel small, weak, and unwanted, just to protect someone who was destroying me." Uzo opened his mouth, but no words came out. Ijoma stepped closer, just enough so only he could hear her next words. "Now," she whispered, "watch me rise with the truth." And with that, she turned around and walked away, her heels clicking on the pavement like a drumbeat of freedom. The cameras followed her, but she didn't look back. She didn't need to. Uzo stood there, frozen. The crowd parted for Ijoma like the sea, but nobody moved for him. He was left standing alone, with his apology still hanging in the air like dust. He had finally seen the truth, but it was too late. Ijoma didn't need revenge. She didn't need to scream. Her power was in her calm, in her truth, in her rise, and everyone watching felt it. The judge's voice rang out clearly in the courtroom. "The court rules in favor of the plaintiff." A wave of gasps and murmurs filled the room. Adaize's face fell, her confident mask breaking for the first time. The judge continued, "Adaize, you are found guilty of fraud, impersonation, and causing emotional harm. You are sentenced to pay damages and face legal consequences." The room was stunned. Adaize's family sat silently, shocked and ashamed. Ijoma's heart pounded, but she stayed calm. She looked around and saw the faces of the victims she had fought for, people whose lives Adaize had hurt with lies and manipulation. This victory was more than just a legal win. It was justice for all the pain Adaize caused. The judge nodded approvingly at Ijoma, recognizing her strong work and courage. As the court session ended, people in the room started clapping, slowly at first, then louder. Ijeoma's colleagues, her clients, even strangers who had followed the case were applauding her bravery and dedication. For once, she was not the quiet girl pushed around. She was a powerful woman standing tall. After the courtroom cleared, Ijoma received a call that made her smile for the first time in weeks. A well-known law firm wanted to offer her a prestigious job. They had watched her fight in court and were impressed by her skill and integrity. This was a chance to grow her career and finally live on her own terms. For the first time, Ijoma thought about herself, not as someone who only supports others or tries to please a difficult family. She thought about her dreams, her happiness, and her worth. She realized she didn't have to accept being small or silent anymore. She could be strong, respected, and free. She packed up the memories of pain and betrayal, but left them behind. Ijoma walked away from the past that had tried to keep her down. She walked toward a future full of hope, dignity, and self-love. This was her new beginning, one she had fought hard for, and one she would never give up. Months after the court victory, Ijoma attended another legal event at the courthouse. This time, she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was Ebuka, a calm and respectful attorney she had met during one of the cases. Ebuka had always admired Ijoma's strength and courage, but he never made her feel small or weak. Instead, he listened carefully, supported her decisions, and treated her with kindness and respect. Their friendship grew slowly but surely. They shared stories about their struggles, dreams, and hopes for the future. Ebuka never judged her for the past, or expected her to apologize for standing up for herself. With him, Ijoma felt safe and valued for who she truly was. It was a new kind of love, quiet, honest, and full of respect. One morning, as they walked into court together, holding hands, people noticed the difference. Ijoma's head was held high, her smile genuine and free from pain. No longer was she the woman forced to apologize for surviving hardships. Now she stood tall beside someone who celebrated her strength. That moment was more than just about love. It was a symbol of Ijoma's journey, from being silenced and humiliated to finding a partner who honored her courage and spirit. The courtroom wasn't a place of shame anymore. It had become a place of new beginnings. Ijoma had finally found someone who never asked her to be less than she was. Together, they faced the future with hope and confidence, proving that true love is about respect and standing by each other through every challenge. If you believe in standing up for yourself and finding true strength in respect and love, share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful tales that inspire real change. Your voice matters. Let's rise together